Hey there, today I have an order summary video, and in this video I'm going to go over the results of the comic book unboxing number 187. This, if you remember, was the results of the Infinity Comic auctions from late January 2024, where I had received a handful of Silver Age, just mixed eras, but I think it was about 10 back issues. This is going to be for channel members only. So the first thing I will ask is definitely let me know what you think about maybe splitting these up. The only concern that I have is I have received some feedback over time, not recently, but over time, where there are some folks that really do enjoy the breakdown of the spreadsheets, but I do feel like this is making the videos a lot longer. And those of you that do support my channel regularly, I do appreciate it very much, and I feel like you're probably more likely to be into these numbers, and so would love to get your feedback on it. But I want to get to the order summary and the breakdown, and I think there's something that I'd like to talk about that's pretty interesting, a happy surprise that ended up kind of working out. So let me start sharing my screen so you can see the results here, and you'll go ahead and I'm sure you'll kind of spot the big number that's popping out here. That's pretty ridiculous. But what I ended up doing is I cataloged all of these books and went ahead and put in the grades. I want to start out with Amazing Spider-Man 298. This was the newsstand copy of the first cameo appearance of Venom. This book did not grade out as expected. In the unboxing, I showed how it looked like a regular series of spine ticks that were running up the top half of the book, and when I opened up the comic, took it out of the bag and board, it did in fact have a number of spine ticks. Now from the front, that was kind of the initial scan that I saw on Infinity Comics, it really looked like a clean copy, and I was particularly intrigued by the fact that it was a newsstand, thinking maybe it's more difficult to get newsstand in high grade. And then when I ran the numbers, I ended up paying $77.82 because we've got the shipping and handling, which is $11.74. They ended up sending that Gemini mailer where it was kind of open, but they did send it priority. And then Infinity Comics charges me tax on top of that. So a $70 final bid to win that book ended up actually being $77.82, and I graded it as an 8.0. So it was listed as very fine and ended up grading out as an 8.0 very fine. Cover price has that book at $50, and in a CGC 8.0 it's only worth 71. So this was probably the biggest loser or biggest disappointment. And what I've done to kind of counteract those emotions, you'll see here in column Y, this PS. I thought about making it POS, but I'm just going to leave it as PS. And when I mark it Y, that is my indicator to have my automated posting to eBay kick in. So I've already posted this for sale on eBay. It's picked up a few views overnight. Nothing really substantial, no offers yet. But this is kind of what I'm doing, is like I'm trying not to take my disappointment and have it kind of ruin the experience. I'm doing something positive with it, which is adding it to well, it's not really my eBay store, but the books that I'm listing on eBay, it's there available with all the others, and trying to either get my money back or not take a huge loss. It was a risk, it was a gamble. That one didn't pay off, so that's disappointing. I thought about keeping it, just putting it in the PC, but really it's just not a book that I would want to keep around in that grade. And you could say maybe, like, is it worth pressing? Maybe getting it up to an 8.5, giving it a little bit of a bump, because there are some pressable defects on it. But what I do with my formulas when I figure out, am I going to press this book, I also factor in what I paid for it. So, like, if I picked this book up for $10, then it would be a book that I would probably go ahead and clean up and submit for grading. But because I paid so much for it raw, I don't want to invest any more money in it than I already have. And hopefully that makes sense. So like if I were to sell that book to someone else for $20, they might do something different with it. They might go ahead and get it graded, but I'm pretty much out on this book, on this specific item. Overall, just kind of going over the totals, I was invoiced $241.94 for these 10 books. They ended up, the average grade, this isn't really all that interesting because the listed conditions were all over the place. But the average grade of the books that I picked up, I think it is interesting in terms of how did they grade out? What books am I targeting? A little over a VF at 8.09. The Amazing Spider-Man 285, that is the Gang War Part 2 with Punisher on the cover. That one graded out 9.2, but I do believe that could be improved with the press. So that's already in my stack to send off to Palm Beach Comic Pressing. Some other highlights, FF 183 and a 9.0. I do believe that one also could be improved with a press. And really, I'm just kind of stalling before I talk about what I think is the big win. Adventure Comics, that was one I spent a lot of time showing on the video. That one I do believe it's really heavily creased, and there's more spine ticks on that one than I would have liked. 7.0 for that. CGC has that as a fair market value of $51 in a 7.0. I do believe that could be improved, but still kind of trying to decide if I'm going to do anything further with that. And that was another kind of lesson learned, I guess. There's a book like, take All-Star Comics 63. It was listed as a VF, and I graded it as a 6.5 Fine Plus. It's a $10 book. I spent $7 on it, so that's fine. But then what do I do with that book? It's not really worth the additional investment, because even if I were to get that one clean, pressed, graded, maybe it gets up to a 7 or a 7.5, and still it's just not really that valuable. I mentioned that in the video, where you're kind of in this area of limbo where you're holding on to a slab that's going to take up room, and it's just in an undesirable grade. It doesn't mean the book is not desirable, but the grade, that mid grade, just not that interesting for a book like that's not significant in terms of it being any sort of key in terms of cover, story, creator, etc. And while you might say, well, it's only $7, what's the harm? Maybe I start collecting a run of All-Star Comics, who knows? But the point is that those $7 pickups start to add up. And if you're picking up 10, 20, those turn into like 50, 100 issues. And now you have almost a full short box of comics around this like $5 to $10 range that are older books, maybe bronze, early copper age, but they're all kind of mid-grade. And then what do you do with that? Like, I'm not a big live claim sales guy that I'm going to say this presents well and try and overhype it and inflate the condition and price. So I have to be careful with that and really just keep those to a minimum, I would say. But let me go ahead and talk about kind of the interesting outcome for this one. I picked up 2 Strange Tales books. Strange Tales 142, let me start with that one. That was listed as a Fine Plus 6.5. I ended up grading that book in an 8.5, which does have value as is in that grade at $117. So that would be a $63 value add if I were to send that book straight into CGC. Now, I do believe that book could be improved even further, and so I do have it set aside to send to a presser. I haven't decided if those books will go to Palm Beach or the Comic Doctor. I think that what I'm going to try and do is put together maybe a Silver Age submission to the Comic Doctor. Not that I don't trust Palm Beach with those books, but I know based on, watching the Comic Doctor's videos, I have evidence that he has handled those. Now, Palm Beach posts on Instagram some of the books that he's handling, and I've sent Palm Beach several orders, so it really is not a trust issue. It's almost just like a theme, or I'm trying to group books together that make sense to be grouped, so I don't necessarily want to send a Strange Tales book and then a Fantastic Four from 1978 and then kind of have them mixed up. It also, they're different tiers at CGC. So my thinking was, I'm not in a hurry to grade Strange Tales. It's not like I have a copy of Ultimate Spider-Man #1 that I want to turn around very quickly, where I can get the stack increase or something out. And that's that kind of book I would trust sending to Palm Beach. But nevertheless, it is set aside for improvement. But very cool, just as is, to pick up a book that was listed as a 6.5 that graded out as an 8.5. And even just from a raw fair market value perspective, I paid only $21 for that book. Cover price has Strange Tales 142 at $40. And then, like I mentioned, if it graded out as an 8.5 by CGC, it's $117. However, that was not the gem here. Strange Tales 138. This is the first appearance of Eternity. This too was listed by Infinity Comics as a Fine Plus 6.5. I did pay more for that book because I knew it was a key, and I also knew that it was in better shape than they said it was. So I spent $56 to acquire that book. And already I knew out of the gate I was going to get a bump from the raw fair market value perspective, as that is sitting at $90 as is. But I graded that as a 9.2, and frankly, I thought it was even better than that, but I was scared to give it anything higher. Like, there must be something I missed. It's almost like I just doubted myself, or it was too good to be true. So I ended up giving it a 9.2. In a 9.2, the current CGC fair market value is $559, which was just mind-blowing. And when I was grading the book after the unboxing, I almost like panicked a little bit. During the unboxing too, I had to kind of keep a straight face because I knew what I had and I didn't want to make a big deal about it. And also, I'm very superstitious and paranoid, really bad combination of emotions and things. And I was concerned that if I maybe got too excited or overhyped it, typically what happens, I'll give you an example. Like, there was a book, I don't remember which one, but it was one of the Fantastic Four books. And I was like, oh, this looks really great. This is awesome. And then as I'm describing its awesomeness, I looked at the book, and down at the bottom corner, the corner had been torn. And that happens a lot during unboxings, where I start looking at books and going, oh, this is a really interesting copy, and really think it's in high grade, and just I start kind of gushing over it. And then as I'm talking, I kind of glance down and I see some other defect that's like, okay, this book is not as good as I just said it was. So I was a little nervous about kind of just talking about the condition in more detail. I didn't want to take it out of the bag and board and start showing it on camera. I was worried about dropping it and so forth, because I knew I had a real gem here, or the potential to be. So I thought that was really the home run here, and I didn't expect it to be in that good of shape. Now, the last thing, and I'm doing it here, I'm probably, it sounds like I'm gloating, but I'm just trying to be honest, because this is a book that I am going to send in, and for cleaning and pressing. It is a book that I want to get graded. I will most likely send the two Strange Tales books to the Comic Doctor, and maybe find maybe 3 other Silver Age books that are worth his time and my time, and send him kind of like a Silver Age Marvel shipment, and see how it turns out. Now, I've already graded these books, as you can see, so I'm not going to do the, well, what if they're a 9.4, what if they're 9.8? That's really more for like Mile High, Atomic Avenue type of purchases. But I did want to show you why I was so nervous, because if I flip Strange Tales 138 to a 9.8, oh, not a 9.9, a 9.8, and the value updates, yeah. So that's why I was nervous. Now, I will say this too, it's not a 9.8. It's not. It's not a 9.8. But I think it's better than a 9.2. I think it's a minimum 9.2. So somewhere between a 9.2 and a 9.8. And I frankly just couldn't believe it. So, I mean, even if some miracle happened and I was able to get that book graded as a 9.6, I believe it's over 1,300, pushing 1,400 for that. May end up being one of my biggest all-time scores. Now, I need to stop, because I do think that the more I talk about it, the more I'm going to jinx myself. But those were the results from that unboxing, and would love to get your feedback. I mean, these things happen. You know, this is one of those where, I went to the flea market and I found ASM 129 for $1, and cleaned it up, and now it's an 8.5 slabbed. I'm not suggesting it's one of those types of stories. I put a lot of time and energy and research into these books, but there is something to be said when, and this doesn't even apply to Infinity Comics specifically, but if you're on eBay or you're looking at books, sometimes you're looking for sellers that you want to do business with, that you trust, that are honest, etc. And the seller could be online, in person, LCS, convention, whatever. But you want to find those sellers also that are honest about their grading and the condition, and that maybe do slightly undergrade. Now, I said this on the unboxing too, and I want to repeat this. You cannot blindly just bid on books that are VF plus. I would say most sellers overgrade or don't know how to grade. In this case, I feel like I just kind of ran into a series of books that were just flat out misgraded. So it could go either way. But that's it. That's the results. Again, would love to get your feedback. I trust you guys, my channel members, to give me honest feedback if you like kind of these. This isn't really behind the scenes necessarily, but it's just kind of sort of behind the order, what my thought process was, how the book's graded out. And then I think this will be an interesting story, dare I say, a strange tale, Strange Tales 138, just to kind of see how it went from this sort of under the radar auction pickup to what could be a really big book now in my collection. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.